Vanir, Konosuba God's blessing on this wonderful world, is already known as one of the most hilarious animes out there. And Vanir takes the comedy up a notch every time that he's on screen. He's introduced as a serious powerhouse, a legit Duke of Hell with intimidating magical abilities. But after Kazuma and the gang defeat him in true chaotic Konosuba style, Vanir's entire vibe does a complete 180. Instead of swearing vengeance or plotting a return to glory, he just reinvents himself. He gets reincarnated as Vanir II and decides he's done with world domination. Working under the Devil King, that's too much stress. But running a business, now that's exciting. So Vanir throws himself into entrepreneurship, teaming up with Kazuma to build inventions using modern-day tech ideas. And they do actually make a solid amount of money together, which is wild when you consider that Vanir was supposed to be a terrifying villain. What makes it all work is that Vanir still acts like his cold, smug, over-the-top self. He just happens to channel all that extra energy into profit instead of destruction. Teruki Hanazawa. Too cool to stay a villain. From Mob Psycho 100, Teruki, or Teru as he's often called, starts off on the wrong side of things. He's a powerful Esper with a serious superiority complex, and he uses his powers to show off and crush anyone who challenges him. He feels untouchable, but then Mob shows up and completely humbles him. Mob doesn't just win the fight, he shatters Teru's ego, and that loss is exactly what Teru needed. Instead of stowing in his defeat, he reflects and makes a real effort to change. He becomes a close ally to Mob and even forms a bond with Mob's younger brother, Ritsu. It's cool to watch him shift from an arrogant threat to a solid friend, and he doesn't lose his edge. He just starts using it to help instead of intimidate. It's a great example of how anime can turn a former antagonist into one of the good guys without losing what made them interesting in the first place. Choso, Big Brother energy activated. Jujutsu Kaisen introduces Choso as a pretty scary presence. He's one of the cursed womb death paintings and wields a brutal blood manipulation technique that makes him a serious threat. When he clashes with Yuji during the Shibuya arc, it's intense. Choso feels like one of those enemies who's not going to budge. But then, something weird happens. He realizes Yuji might be his brother, and that discovery completely rewires how he sees everything. Suddenly, Choso isn't an enemy anymore. He becomes this fiercely loyal older brother figure, standing by Yuji's side in later fights. His entire motivation shifts from revenge to protection. And because he's still insanely powerful, it makes him a huge asset. But what really makes his switch so powerful is that it adds emotional depth to all the chaos happening around him. Choso brings heart to a brutal world. Turbo Granny, the most unhinged ally that you could ask for. If you've been reading Dandadan, then you know that Turbo Granny is absolutely wild. She's introduced as this terrifying yokai haunting a tunnel, and her energy is pure chaos. She's fast, unpredictable, and completely unfiltered. But once her powers end up sealed inside Okarun, the story takes a sharp turn. Now tied to Okarun, she agrees to help him reclaim his Kintama. Yes, that's what it means, and we start to see a new side of her. It turns out she wasn't just haunting people for fun. She had a reason. The tunnel she haunted was a place where awful things happened to girls, and haunting it was her way of protecting others. Beneath her crude jokes and unhinged behavior is someone with real conviction. Once she joins forces with Okarun and Momo, she becomes an essential part of the team. Her sharp mind and brutal honesty cut through everything. Turbo Granny is proof that sometimes the scariest characters have the strongest moral compasses. Lady Nagant, the sharpshooter with a conscience. In My Hero Academia, Lady Nagant doesn't look like the type to second-guess herself. She's a former top-tier assassin with a chillingly accurate quirk and a past drenched in government secrets. When she first appears, she's working under All for One and taking shots at heroes like it's just another mission. But there's more going on. Deku quickly notices that something's off. She's too skilled to be missing on purpose, and when she refuses to kill certain targets, even though she easily could, it's clear her loyalty isn't absolute. What we learn is that Nagant didn't fall from grace. She was pushed, but Deku's compassion reaches her, and she ends up switching sides, helping fight against All for One's army. She never stops being cool-headed and dangerous, but her target shifts from orders to justice. Igris, loyal shadow, former gatekeeper. In solo leveling, Igris is introduced not as a villain in the traditional sense, but more like an elite test. He's the final challenge Jinwoo must face to prove that he's worthy of the Shadow Monarch's power. Their battle is one of the most intense in the series, and Igris pushes Jinwoo to his limits, so much so that even Jinwoo admits afterward that if Igris had truly gone all out, things could have ended very differently. But the twist. After the fight, Igris becomes one of Jinwoo's most loyal shadows. He doesn't just follow orders. He stands beside Jinwoo in battle after battle, defending him like a silent knight. His switch from gatekeeper to protector isn't flashy, but it's meaningful. He doesn't talk, but his presence says enough. Igris goes from being a challenge to a champion. Nico Robin, the quiet survivor who found her crew. In One Piece, Nico Robin's arc is one of the most emotionally layered in the series. She starts off working with Crocodile, one of the big bads, and her intentions seem completely self-serving. With her powerful devil fruit ability and calm demeanor, she feels untouchable. But everything changes when Luffy defeats Crocodile and, more importantly, saves her life. And that moment opens the door for her to join the Straw Hats. But even then, her journey isn't smooth. During the Water 7 arc, she leaves again, convinced that she's protecting the crew from danger. But Luffy doesn't give up on her, and when she finally says, "I want to live," it hits hard. Robin's transformation from a lone survivor to a beloved member of the crew is built on trust, loyalty, and a ton of heart. Gaara, from monster to Kazekage. Gaara's character Naruto is one of the most powerful redemptions in anime. Early on, he's terrifying. As a Jinchuriki, he's filled with rage and pain, convinced that being feared is the only way to survive. Unlike Naruto, who chose friendship and kindness, Gaara leaned into the hate and became a weapon. But their fight changes him. Naruto forces Gaara to question everything about strength, loneliness, and what it means to be powerful. Vegeta, prideful warrior turned protector. If there's a face for villain redemption in anime, it's probably Vegeta from Dragon Ball. He arrives as a proud, ruthless Saiyan warrior with a serious chip on his shoulder. He's there to destroy Earth, plain and simple. But through his rivalry with Goku, things begin to shift. But it's not instant. Vegeta struggles with his pride and with understanding of what it means to care about others. But his relationship with Bulma, his bond with Trunks, and his continued presence on Earth all help reshape him. And he never really loses that fire. He's still stubborn and intense, but his motivations evolve. He starts fighting not just for pride, but to protect what matters to him. By the time Dragon Ball Super rolls around, he's not just a fighter. He's a father, a husband, and a protector. And that's what makes them unforgettable. And that's that for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one.